Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I hope you had a nice networking break. We continue our program, and we do that with our chapter around fleet sustainability. As you know, sustainability is the key ingredient for fleet success in 2023. We saw that with the Global Fleet Survey that we published in September of this year, and you will hear later on some of the key highlights of that survey. We also saw that with the applicants and the finalists of the Fleet Europe Awards, and we have with us today one of those finalists. It's Laszlo Kiss of Novartis. He is managing the global fleet, and you will hear from him how he has set up and implemented a global fleet program with fleet sustainability as the key pillar. It's really an exciting presentation, it's an exciting story. So please sit down, open your ears. Laszlo Kiss, welcome to the Global Fleet Conference. I hope that you are doing well.
I'm fine, thank you, Steven.
It's great to have you, Laszlo. Of course, we know Novartis, and it's interesting also to see that your complete global fleet strategy is built upon the pillar of fleet sustainability. So, knowing that many fleets have ESG targets, we thought that your case study would be a perfect fit for this virtual global fleet conference. So, if you are ready, I think the audience is ready and I am ready. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Steven. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So, good morning and good afternoon, everybody. As Steven mentioned, my name is Laszlo Kiss. I'm working for Novartis Procurement as a global fleet category manager. And as the title of this presentation shows, we used sustainability in order to put our fleet in a better shape, let's say. So just some words about Novartis. Our purpose, Novartis is a medicines company, and our purpose is to reimagine medicine, to extend and improve people's lives. And if you look at our priorities, then under strength and foundations, we have the build trust with the society. And within that frame, we have environmental sustainability. And as an important priority there, this is also something which we made as a top priority of our fleet. If we go to the next slide, then you can see some details about our fleet. And then this is, again, we are building this program since 2020. So the data which you see here is from 2020 when we started this whole program. We had 26,000 company cars in 79 countries, and from the other numbers here you can see the big complexity which we had in terms of service providers, different operating models, different fleet responsibilities in the different countries, different policy ownership. So it was a great variety of things. And in that kind of landscape, in the beginning of 2020, we got our new objective. Our CEO announced in Davos that Novartis would like to be carbon neutral. And as I said, this is applicable for our fleet as well. As you can see here, the most important number from that perspective, fleet was 124,000 tons of CO2 emission. And it is approximately 17% of Novartis total CO2 emission. So it is a kind of, we can say it's a significant piece of that. So we looked at this objective and looked at our landscape. Of course, we understood that by just having this objective, it doesn't mean that we can go to every country and start giving electric cars to everybody. But we also understood that this is important for Novartis, so we decided that we build a global fleet strategy and use the objective not just to start implementing electrified and low emission vehicles, but as well to kind of improve the overall fleet management setup at Novartis. If we go to the next slide, then you can see the four main principles which was the basis of our strategy. So, and I'm sure that again we developed this in 2020. In the end of 2022, most of this will not be surprising. But of course, the first one is the country suitability assessment. So we did. We had a lot of discussions, a lot of market reviews to understand the political, economical, social situation in the countries, understand which countries are ready, which countries might not be ready for electric cars. We worked very closely with our service providers. That time in 2020, some of them already started to come up with different EV readiness indexes, and of course we used that heavily, and we worked together with them to understand what we can do and when. The second principle was to profile our future need, which really means driver profiling. So even if a country is ready for low emission vehicles or electric cars, we have to understand our drivers as well, because they have different business and private needs, different place where they live, and we have to make sure that we understand them, and based on the driver profiling process, we can determine which driver can get or can drive what kind of powertrain. The third key principle is one global fleet standard. So we didn't have a cross-divisional global car policy at Novartis, but we used this opportunity to develop one, and we successfully went live with that. Again, of course, the main piece of this global car fleet policy was around sustainability, but we could also address other topics like eligibility guidance to the countries, or preferred supplier usage, and so on. So it was really a great step forward in our program to have this policy in place. And the fourth principle was simplification of process governance. You've seen where we were coming from. So we organized a global RFP, and with the objective of being carbon neutral, we try to choose those service providers who can first of all help us in our electrification journey, but as well help us with standardizing our overall fleet setup. If we go to the next slide, so far I was talking about the concept again, which we developed, but what did this mean in real life? So when we went to the countries, how did it look like, or what was our expectation, or what was the deliverables? And here you can see the three main deliverables in each country. We asked the countries and worked together with them to localize the global car fleet policy. And of course, it also means that it has to be adapted to the local circumstances. The second key deliverable was to implement the defined fleet management setup, which means that we professionalized our fleet management, implemented new suppliers across many countries. So I have to say that the past 2 years was pretty intensive from this perspective. And then the third important aspect is change management. And this is really key, because it's not enough just to have the objective to identify the right suppliers and right processes for that. But you also really have to bring your company car drivers with you. You have to win their hearts and minds, and have to explain them what we do, why we do that, and because of that, change management was very key in the implementation part of our program. If we go to the next slide, then you see our roadmap. So again, 2020 was heavily about developing the strategy, getting management endorsement, developing the global car fleet policy, and as well perform the supplier selection process. And then after having that in place in the beginning of 2021, we started the implementation in 29 countries. You can see those in green colors. It doesn't mean that in each of these 29 countries we could go to electric cars, not at all. But we started with these countries. Of course, we looked at our fleet size, we looked at the EV readiness, and based on all those criteria, we started the implementation. In some countries we can really go straight to EVs. In other countries, the assessment showed that basically the first step is to go for low emission hybrid vehicles, and as the time goes, we will continue to make the next steps as well. But in every country where we started the implementation, again, we standardized our setup, implemented suppliers, and so on. And in 2022, we started to look at not just mainly Europe and North America, but also the APMA region. We have an exciting project this year in Japan, in Australia, and we also started the journey in the LATAM region with Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and some Central American countries. And we still have a big footprint in front of us. Of course, there are also geopolitical events which we all know, which are impacting our roadmap and what we can do in which countries. So Russia, for example, is where we have a big fleet. We haven't been able to really initiate due to the circumstances, but we are still hope that at some point we can start our program there as well. If we go to the next slide, then this is a very important piece of what we build. So the global fleet governance, which I think was a key piece. So as you can see, the whole program was approved by the executive committee of Novartis. We built a steering committee. We had a sustainability steering committee as well, and we created a global implementation team for the program, which included all the different functions which has something to say about the company car fleet. So we really wanted to make sure that everybody has a seat at the table. So when we implement the program, then we really consider all the different aspects of the fleet. When we initiated or kicked off the implementation in the countries, we tried to build a similar kind of implementation team in the countries as well. As you can see, there were three key roles. One is the country sponsor. In each country, we asked the country president to nominate a country sponsor who was responsible for leading the program. And P&O or HR and rewards and procurement were the other two key functions who were leading the implementation in each country. In the middle of the slide, you can see that we also built an implementation team, which included our regional fleet managers, but it also included temporary project managers who were working together with country sponsors to make sure that we provide project management support to each of our countries, because we have to acknowledge that implementing new policies, implementing new suppliers, new contract, it's a pretty time-consuming exercise. If we go to the next slide, it little bit shows the procurement strategy. As I mentioned in the beginning, we did a global RFP to select our globally preferred suppliers. Our standard acquisition method is leasing in most of the regions. In the LATAM region, we have some varieties of that, other type of acquisitions which we are looking at. As an outcome of the global RFP, we defined who is our preferred supplier and what is our preferred setup in terms of single source, dual source, and of course that also drives how we control the cost and how we look at the TCO. In terms of OEM strategy, we decided to go for an open policy for electric and plug-in hybrid cars. So for those kind of powertrains, in 2020 we told to the countries that every brand or manufacturer who is available and producing those type of cars are available, they can choose. And of course in 2020 the availability of those cars were not on the same level as in the end of 2022. I still think that right now this policy is good, but I'm sure that the point will come when we will have to look at again if we work with preferred suppliers. And we all know as well the current circumstances where we live in long lead times of cars, so this policy will stay for us for some time. In terms of TCO management, what I would like to highlight is that in each country where we started the implementation, we really built individual business cases. So we looked at market by market, which models are available, from EVs, from hybrids, do we need any other powertrain, depending on which brands or which cars do we implement, what is the impact on the total cost. And in some countries we could manage to stay within the previous budget. In some countries it was not sufficient, but in each country we built that business case and went to our senior leadership country leadership team, and of course ask for their approval and endorsement on the new car fleet setup. If we go to the next slide, then it's about change management, and I already started to talk about that. Again, this is we have, and I think we all understand that company car is a tool, but it's also a benefit, or it is considered as a benefit in most of the countries. And I maybe forgot to mention in the beginning, but at Novartis we have passenger cars only. 80% for sales force and 20% approximately for benefit. So these employees are really considering the car as an important benefit, and we have to understand that if we touch a benefit which is an important part of a compensation package for an employee, then we have to make sure that we approach it properly. In order to understand, again, the driver's needs, in order to understand what is in their mind when we talk about sustainability and low emission vehicles, in 2020 we did a big survey. We invited drivers for deep interviews and others for just surveys, and we really wanted to understand their thoughts. And based on the outcome of this exercise, we defined 3 different driver personas, which you can see on the screen. And these driver personas were used in the end in every country when we went to the country and started to, based on the global change management plan, we built a country change management plan and a country communication plan. And for that, we could use these personas to really kind of tweak our communication plan to make sure that we reach all the different personas, all those who might not like electrification at all because they really like driving fast on the highway, to those colleagues who are really enthusiastic about sustainability and going electric. So this was a very, very useful exercise in our program. If we go to the next slide, then again we are still working on the green agenda, but of course we have to look ahead. And if we kind of already build this strong governance setup with clear roles and responsibilities, with clear ownership of countries and standardized ownership in countries of policies, of fleet management responsibilities and so on, we would like to utilize that setup and move forward. Data is key. I think we are still not very good in aggregating data, so this is something which we would like to definitely improve. In terms of mobility, I think this is still heavily driven by country market. So there is no above country solution really existing which I would just easily give to the countries for implementation. And then again, we really have to see the interest readiness of a country for mobility solution. But this is a next step for us as well, to work close with the countries and identify new solutions. In terms of safety and connectivity, this is well-known topic for everybody who's working with fleet, and we have a safety program in place, but I think previously we were not very strong in implementation. But with the new, stronger central governance, I think we can do it better, and I think we have to explore these areas better and see what we can do, what is the benefit for Novartis potentially from connectivity services, what do we really want to go for, what is the cost, what is the benefit, and then start those kind of projects as well. And if we go to the last slide, it is really just summarizing what we achieved so far. And if you think about that we have 26,000 company cars, these numbers which you see on the slide now indicates that we still have a long journey in front of us. But in the same time, we are also proud to say that we already ordered more than 4,200 low emission vehicles, a lot of electric vehicles included. Again, unfortunately, many of this is still in ordered phase due to the long lead times. But as soon as these will be delivered, we will be in a situation that approximately 9,300 tons of CO2 emission has already been removed from the environment on an annual basis, which is a great thing, but again, still a long journey in front of us. And on the right side of the slide, you can see again, I can just emphasize how important the governance structure was, and how beneficial it is going forward for our fleet program. The successful implementation of change management, really engaging with drivers in several different forums, Teams chats, all the town halls, events which we organized for them in each country. That was really an amazing journey and an amazing experience to see. We are already receiving testimonials for the first ones who are driving electric cars, and I have to say that I don't really hear negative feedback. Those who started the electric journey, our majority of our employees is happy with what they get within this program. And again, the strengthening and simplifying our fleet operations, clarifying roles and responsibilities, standardizing processes, that was also a key achievement in this program, and I expect it will continue to be beneficial for us going forward as well. So this is on a high level what we did and what we achieved. I hope this resonates with you as well, and I hope I could share some useful insights with you. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to discuss or answer those. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Laszlo. Thank you for your presentation. Like Laszlo mentioned, if you have questions for him about his program, about the implementation of his global fleet strategy, then you can submit your question via the chat. I will ask a few questions to Laszlo. We still have some time. Laszlo, you have a clear mandate. You also have clear targets. We know, of course, the challenging market conditions we are living in. Has that impacted your strategy, your roadmap, your targets in any way?
I mean, the target is the target. I mean, we would like to be carbon neutral, but the way how it impacted, of course, really, as the lead times are really long, the cars are not coming as we expected originally. We know, of course, our renewal cycles in each country, and based on that, we had a plan in terms of how our CO2 emission will reduce, and we were very transparent with our management from the beginning that yes, we would like to be carbon neutral by 2025, but we cannot replace each of those 26,000 cars with electric vehicles by 2025. So we clearly said that our expectation is that we can reduce 50-60%. We gave them, of course, concrete numbers, and then there will be remaining, which we have to offset after 2026. And in parallel, we will have to continue the work and continue to eliminate. And our last deadline was 2040, wherein really in each and every country we can replace everything and there is no offset needed at all anymore. So this was the projection which we made. And unfortunately, due to those circumstances, sometimes in the beginning, mid of next year, we kind of updated that projection and also went back to our management that due to all those circumstances, the original estimation where we said we will be able to eliminate 60%, it won't be 60% anymore, unfortunately, it will be just 50. I mean, just high level numbers. But of course, it is impacting us, it is impacting the strategy. But in terms of implementation, we don't want to slow down, but still we have to of course understand what is happening around us.
Okay. Then I would also like to know, you presented, let's say, 3 clusters, 3 colors of countries in your roadmap. Could that change over time? That you see, for example, you mentioned, for example, Russia. Well, it's not feasible at this moment to do anything, I assume. So could it be that also that cluster of countries could change over time, or has that been decided and that is how you are going to work?
No, that's flexible. I mean, in the beginning, it was interesting that we defined that roadmap and presented that to the management. But kind of immediately after that, there were countries, for example, the Baltic countries, who came to us that, guys, we want to be in the first wave, no question. So, and of course, if this is the case, we are happy to go. In the end, I have to say that in the first wave we added a couple of more countries who wanted to come, but the second wave was even more flexible. So on an annual basis, we have to review readiness. We have to review. We have better and better understanding as well from global perspective what is going on in the countries. As we were able to build our team, we had regional category managers in place who had much better insight that I have in some cases from global perspective. And with all that knowledge which we collect as the time goes, all that knowledge which is coming from just experience from implementing in the first countries, knowledge which we get together with our service providers, we are continuously updating our roadmap and do it as we see practical really in the end.
Okay. You were also talking about interesting projects in Australia and Japan on the one hand, and also in Latin America. Can you tell us a little bit more? Because, of course, if we talk about global fleet management, if we talk about sustainability and fleet management, then, for example, Latin America is often a region where global fleet managers say, well, probably we need to wait a little bit and perhaps start with Europe and with North America. So, what's the project in LATAM, and then what's the project in Japan and Australia?
Yes, and similarly to what you said, we also started in Europe and North America, but those were the regions which were kind of the most ready for the change. But I have also good experience, interesting experience from other regions as well. Australia, for example, if we look at that country, we don't have a very big fleet there, but people are very positive about electrification, and I don't remember now the exact number, but around 60-70% of them immediately said that they want to go for electric. So I mean, this is what we found, but we really had to deep dive. We have to talk to the local stakeholders, local drivers, whatever, and this is what we found. In Japan, I think also from cultural perspective, it's a little bit different. What I see is that changes are happening very slowly. We have to do pilots. We have to kind of be risk-free as much as possible. So, but you know, this is what we have to accommodate to. Culture is culture, and we really have to respect that. But still, the objective is the objective. So even if it is slower, we are going to the right direction. And in Japan as well, we already ordered electric cars, which is pretty good. In the LATAM region, right now we are more. Again, there, as probably you saw from the slides, we have different acquisition methods as well. So we were looking at it, is that still the right way? Should we go for leasing? And then interest rates started to increase. So what is the right way again going forward? But independently in the end from the acquisition model, the objective is there to reduce our emission. Maybe in those countries, the first step is to go for hybrids, because that is already a reduction of at least 20%. So it's more than nothing. Maybe it's not the final goal. But there are also differences. I think based on our assessment, Colombia is probably the most ready. So they can already probably go electric cars. Maybe just a couple, to try. Maybe those drivers who are really interested in trying. The rest might just go with hybrid, maybe on a shorter leasing cycle. So we have the opportunity again to exchange those cars if we see that it makes sense and the market is developing in that kind of pace which we might expect.
Okay, there are a few questions popping in. Apparently, some fleet managers or some participants, they have issues in terms of getting the buy-in and convincing top management in terms of allocating the resources. Two questions. The first one is, which are the biggest challenges that you faced to get the mandate and the governance model in place?
The mandate was coming from the leadership. So in the end, when we went back and presented the strategy to them, it was the answer to their request. So from that perspective, they didn't really challenge much what we proposed. But then, of course, when we talk about challenge, it's good to have the mandate and it's very useful. But
Mhm.
in the end, we also have to see that Novartis is a big organization with a huge complexity, a lot of countries and a lot of country stakeholders. So it still meant that we had to convince local stakeholders, and it was easier by having the global mandate behind us, but in some cases it was still challenging, and then we tried to find different methodologies. Just in some countries we said that, okay, if you are not confident as a management team, then let's try to lead by example and let us you try these electric cars, and basically it worked. So I mean, it's a challenge. Yes, you work with a lot of people. I mean, I showed the governance structure which we developed, and it was good. I mean, it also shows the support that we were able to build a team from global leadership. Um, but in the end, it's not just about this team. So as you can imagine, in every country, onboarding all those functions. So I have to say that 3, 4, 500 employees at Novartis were working on this program. If you look at in each and every country, where in each and every country we had a rewards person, we had an HSE person, we had a procurement person, and we had the leadership team. So it was a really it's not a product of, I don't know, 10, 15 people.
Mhm.
It's really hundreds of people who we had to engage to be able to move forward in the countries, and that's not easy. Um, but the objective is the objective, and we were passionate about this. So I think that also helped.
So it was not only Laszlo Kiss in this case.
I thought you figured it out.
Yes. Then something else. Many fleet managers also question the relevance, the future of plug-in hybrid electric vehicles and managing them correctly. What is your take on those PHEVs in your policy, in your strategy?
Yes, so in 2020, our idea was that is a good technology, which is definitely a temporary technology, but at least uh, those drivers who are not very confident, really concerned, at least it kind of teaches them that, oh, this is how I charge my car, this is how it works. Okay, I can really take 50 kilometers with that, so maybe it will work if I take an electric one as well. So I mean, this was the approach in the beginning, and it was in 2020. Now in 2022, we are just working on updating our global fleet guidelines, where the plug-in hybrid will be linked to much stricter conditions, I have to say. So, which meaning that of course the countries will have to prove that they can really measure that those cars are efficient for their drivers or their fleet. So it's not just enough that yes, the
Mhm.
driver will fit to that powertrain, but can you really measure that the outcome is that as well? And if you can measure, you might be allowed to go for that. And in the same time, we also have to acknowledge that regions or countries are at different stage. So while we have to say that in Western Europe, maybe in the US, plug-in hybrid is not a solution, or not a good solution anymore. But maybe there are other countries which are really in the stage that they have to learn, okay, that there are cars which also have to be charged. And so that's why I say the maturity is really important. In mature countries, I don't think plug-in hybrid should be used anymore. In lower maturity countries, there is probably still a space for that.
Okay. The question, if you want to be really sustainable, you mentioned that Novartis has expressed the ambition of being carbon neutral by 2025, I think. Um, well, then you also need to look, when it comes to fleet and transportation, to well to wheel. And what are you doing there? What are your ambitions there? Also, when we charge our electric vehicle, it's good that it's green energy. Well, we know that not always, not everywhere, we already have green energy. So, what can you do already today, and what are you planning to do in the future?
So when we talk to the different the categorization of emissions, our objective, which we got for fleet, was really for scope one, which is the tailpipe emission of the vehicles. But of course, we also looked at what is how our energy usage look like. It was not concretely asked, to be honest, because
Mhm.
we have another procurement team within Novartis who is dealing with utilities, and they, I think they were also pretty advanced, at least in Europe, to sign green energy contracts with big energy providers. So I think we are pretty advanced in that. In the same time, we also have to acknowledge that if we look at country by country, like Poland was in our first wave of implementation, but we know that in Poland the energy production is not very clean. So yes, we implemented the standard fleet management setup which we wanted. We also looked at electric cars, but maybe we are not that much pushing for them because we have to see how the energy um, production will develop in that country. So this is an additional consideration, but this is something which we can really kind of discuss on a country level when we see what is the situation concretely in that specific country.
Okay. A final question that I have at the Global Fleet Conference next year in Portugal, we will have the topic of sustainable procurement because we know that last year and this year, you and your peers, you have been busy not only with rolling out the global strategy, but also tackling some of the, between brackets, unforeseen challenges and looking what can we do to keep business going. We believe that next year it is time to reflect a little bit more and to look again for those longer term partnerships and sustainable business. And so we have chosen sustainable procurement. What do you want to see next year at our Global Fleet Conference in Portugal?
That's a good question. I think sustainability is a topic which will be with us for the next couple of years or 10 years maybe. So that is not something which will go away. From my perspective, also looking at what are our next priorities, and I think maybe mobility is the next kind of phase which we have to look at deeper. We know it's there, we know it's there, but we didn't go very much in the details yet in order to really start implementing specific solutions in countries. So maybe that would be specific topics of my interest.
Okay, I will put it on the agenda. So thank you very much. And
Thank
I
you very
hope to
much.
see you in another initiative of Global Fleet. Thank you, Laszlo Kiss. Thank
Thank
you.
you.